Hello again, this is Doug, the 2-Minute Gardener. Today we're going to plant a big tree because a big tree fell over. This is actually my parents' house. Last winter, a big storm knocked over this dead redwood. It was badly damaged by the drought for the preceding 5 years, and then the storm finally pushed it over. It was kind of sad because we all loved that tree, but it was time to replace it. So it took a while of digging and pulling. We finally got the roots out, got the trunk out to get that big old beastie boy out, and it was time to replace the tree. So my parents, because they are getting up there, wanted a pretty big mature tree to replace the one that they had. They decided to go with a Tipuano tipu, also known as a rosewood tree, because it is fast growing, deciduous, it flowers, gives lots of shade. As you've seen in other videos when I talk about camellias, my mom has the most amazing camellias, so we needed to get some shade over those trees quickly. All right, so here's how we did it. First, as you can see, before we get cracking on anything, we want to make sure to mark where the water lines are so we don't excavate that hole where it's going to go. Then we kind of mark out where the big hole is going to go. The guys came in, started digging. Now, this is in Coronado, and it is very, very soft soil, so it was pretty quick digging, getting through that hole to excavate out. Now, a 36-inch box tree, typically you want to excavate about 36 inches down, depending on the height of the actual root ball, and it's important to measure it. And then you want to go out an additional 12 inches in all direction. Because this soil is so sandy, they did not need to excavate out quite that far. So they've excavated out the hole a few inches more on either side, and now it's time to bring in the tree. Now, when you're doing a big tree, a 36-inch box, and we'll talk about bigger trees in a little bit, you can either use a big tree dolly, or in this case, because it was a front yard, they were able to back the trailer directly up right to the hole. And the four very strong guys started wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Now, a nice thing about 36-inch box tree is that the bottom part is about 30 inches, so it will fit on a ramp. So, as you can see, they're pulling, they're wiggling, they're pulling, trying to get this big tree down. And 36-inch box trees can weigh anywhere from 400 to 900 pounds. We estimated this one clocked in at the top end about 700 pounds because it had rained about a week before and the root ball was quite wet. All right, they have wiggled and wiggled and wiggled, and they finally got it down to the ground in that box form. Now, in California, most big trees are boxed. I know back east they bag them, but here they box them. So now they have it next to the hole, and of course, they want to make absolutely sure that they have the right depth for this tree. Now, an important thing when it comes to planting trees, it really depends on the soil. Because the soil is so soft here in Coronado, they deliberately planted this tree a couple inches high, knowing that the sheer weight of this tree was going to push down. They did not want the tree to be planted too low because then the grass would come up over the root crown and that would be detrimental to the tree health. So once they have measured it very carefully, they take the bottom off the box because it's easier to move the tree around if the box is still on the side. Now, granted, this tree was pretty mature for a 36-inch box, and it was already breaking the sides off, but there was enough on there that the guys with their gloves could wiggle it some more. So, as you can see, they are wiggling. They're wiggling. They're doing some more wiggling into the hole. Getting it close, getting it very close. Almost time for the exciting part, getting very close. Now, as I mentioned before, bigger trees, you have to use a crane. A 42-inch box, which is the next size up, and that's what you actually see in this one, weighs about 1,500 pounds on average. It could be as light as 1,000, as heavy as 1,800, but it's still a very heavy tree. It's more than 4 guys can handle. So when we have big trees like that, we use a big crane to get the tree into position. This one was just enough that 4 guys could have it. So they're wiggling, they've measured it many times, and the moment of truth is finally here. They got it just positioned enough. they're about to drop it in the hole. It's kind of like golfing. When you think you're getting the putt lined up and you check it multiple times to make sure you got it lined up just right, and almost there, almost there. Oh, there we go. It's in the hole. But it's a little crooked. Not to worry. Then it's time to first pull the sides off. And again, that's why you leave the sides on. It's easier to maneuver it while it's in the box itself. You can move it around. So you pull the sides up, and then you use the amended soil to get it properly level, and then you fill it in. So obviously you want to use a level to check the tree is plumb, straight up and down, relative to the house and the yard and all that. And as you do that, you're wiggling it back and forth, getting it nice and level, and you backfill it with the soil amendments, and then always throw in a slow release fertilizer. I like to use these best packs. I've talked about them in previous videos. They're wonderful slow release fertilizers, and there are links to these, and by the way, in the video description. Anyway, so once they got the tree in the hole, they're now working hard to get it nice and level. They're obviously not going to raise it up because they deliberately planted it a little high, knowing that it's going to sink. So, mixing in the soil, moving it all around. Now, if you live somewhere where the soil is rockier or tougher, you have to then just get a jackhammer and dig a bigger hole. This soil is extremely soft and sandy. The roots are going to have no time punching right through the native soil. So, they've backfilled the hole with 50% amendments and 50% native soil. Now it's time to build a water well. So this is really important. A lot of people don't do that. They just plant a tree and then walk away. It's really important. The last two steps you're going to see in this video are really important to the tree health. Build a water well around it, about 2 feet out in all directions, roughly 18-20 inches. And the purpose of this is to keep water right around the root crown for the first several months of this tree's life. So there's a great example of a water well and what it does. So it's really important that when you're done planting it, you do the water well. So that's number one. Number two, and now you're looking at the tree and go, well, it looks like you're done. It's finished. It's done. You're not done. It's really important that you take that nursery stake off the tree, because if you don't take it off the tree, you can see how it binds the trunk of the tree. This is like putting a rubber band on your esophagus. So it's really important that you double stake the tree. Even if it's a small little tree, you want to make sure that you will double stake the tree. You get one of these tree stake hammers, which allows one guy to drive it in. Now again, if you have really tough soil, and you got to use 2 guys pounding away. But again, nice easy soil. You can see that the guy here really pounds that thing in no time flat with this handy dandy tree stake hammer. And you can rent those. Those are pretty easy things to get and rent, to pound those tree stakes in nice and vertical. Rule of thumb is you want to put it out about where the water well is. Again, about 18 inches out, 12 to 18 inches out. Drive those 2 stakes parallel. Now, where do you put the stakes relative to the house or anything like that? In this case, we did it for aesthetic reasons, but also the primary purpose of these tree stakes is to allow the tree to mature in the wind. I kind of explained it as these rubber bands and tree stakes are workout equipment to build a healthy tree. So if you don't have an aesthetic reason, square it up to the house, for example, the most important placement of these tree stakes is to put them perpendicular to the wind. The tree at this particular property is likely to go backwards and forwards because that's the prevailing direction of the wind on this property. So you put the stakes perpendicular to that so they hold the tree steady against an oncoming wind. This movement allows the tree to build up the outer cambium layer and develop a nice, healthy, rigid trunk for long-term stability. Anyway, so you can see now he's doing the tree stakes. You crisscross those rubber bands, do them about 20 to 24 inches apart, and support them on both sides. You can do them this way, or you can also kind of zigzag it so that there's one on one side and then you go down, as you've seen in other videos I've done. But this is an outstanding job of making this tree nice and stable. Oh, there you go. We have planted a giant tree And here's some really important tips you can use for planting smaller trees. That's all the time we have for today. Hey, make sure to hit that like button if you have enjoyed this video, and subscribe to get more of my garden videos. Until next time, this is Doug, the 2-Minute Gardener, saying thanks for watching.